Hey everybody. In the spirit of top 10 lists, and of course in the spirit of Tom Vassel's top 100 games of all time, I decided to take all the games I've ever played and ranked on BoardGameGeek.com, which I believe is over 500 games, and I input them all into PubMeeple's ranking engine. It took me 8 hours to do this ranking. It was over 2,200 comparisons that I had to make, and I was able to rank all the games that I have ever played together. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be giving you my top 100 games that I enjoy to play. I'm going to be doing this in 10 game segments, so we're going to go ahead and begin right now. The first game on this list is an abstract game currently ranked 427 on BoardGameGeek.com, and that is Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a game about growing trees. You start your life cycle as a seedling, and you're trying to grow all the way up into a giant adult tree, and then you will sacrifice that tree to get points. What's great about this game is that the points you get is determined on where you are on the board. If you're closer to the center of the forest where the soil is richer, you'll get more points when your mature tree dies. But it's harder to get out there because you start on the edge of the board. Or you can go for a strategy to try to grow your trees faster on the edge of the board where the points are worth a little less, but the cycle should be a little faster. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. There's a sun that moves around the board, so you have to get all the great light you can from the sun, which is your energy, which is a really neat mechanism. A lot of take that in the game too, which is kind of incidental take that, as the trees cast shadows on each other. Sometimes you'll block your own self by growing a taller tree, covering your new younger trees. Really fun game. Great for all ages, and that is Photosynthesis. The next game up on this list at number 99 is a game currently ranked 333 on Board Game Geek's top games, and that is Dice Forge. Now, what I love about Dice Forge is I'm a big fan of deck building games, bag building games. This is the only game that I've really experienced where you're actually customizing the dice themselves. So instead of building your own deck, what you're doing is you're changing the dice faces on these dice. And you still, of course, are a slave to the luck of the roll, hoping you get the face that you need at a certain time. But by manipulating those faces, you can try to get your odds to be more in your favor. It's a really fun game, very lightweight. And what's great about the game is there's some aspects of the game which is simultaneous play. You all roll your dice at the same time, which is really neat as well. And that is Dice Forge. Our next game up on the list at number 98 is Spirit Island, currently ranked 13 on BoardGameGeek.com. I've always been a fan of Magic the Gathering. It's one of the first hobby games that kind of got me into this hobby. And what I like about Spirit Island is it is a deck building game as well, where you're trying to get cards to interact with each other, get combos to work off together. So you're building your own deck on the fly, but it's also cooperative. You're working together as the spirits on this island, trying to defend the native inhabitants from colonizers, which is an interesting take on the board games. Most games deal with conquering and exploiting places. In this place, you're trying to defend it. So that's also a very interesting twist. Great game. I do think it works better at 2, maybe 3 players. I would hate to play it at 4. It can become very overwhelming with a lot of analysis paralysis as you're trying to get everybody's cards and combos to all work together. The game would be a lot higher on the list if it wasn't for that. But at 2 players, maybe 3, I think Spirit Island is an excellent game. Next up on the list, we have a racing game from Reiner Knizia, one of my favorite designers, and that is The Quest for El Dorado. The Quest for El Dorado is, no surprise here, a deck building game and a race game. So we're kind of seeing a theme there of the games that I like. With the quest for El Dorado, you're moving around this hexagonal board that you build. So each game can be a different racetrack you're trying to get through, and you are purchasing cards to put in your deck that lets you move through green spaces that represent the jungles and blue spaces that are the water. So you can kind of look ahead and be like, oh, there's a lot of water coming up. I better start buying these paddle cards so that I can get through that. So it's a great game for looking ahead like that. Not overly complex. It gives you that great deck building experience without really having to worry too much about combos, because what you see is what you get as you're trying to make your way through the jungle. And that is The Quest for El Dorado by Reiner Knizia. An excellent game, currently ranked 167 on BoardGameGeek.com. Moving on next, we have Legendary Encounters. Wow, another deck building game. This one a co-op deck building game where you are working your way through the different Alien movies. You got Aliens and Aliens, Alien Resurrection, and basically what you're doing is you are fighting off the xenomorphs as a team. The first thing you'll do is you'll pick a character. Maybe you'll be the mercenary or the medic. You'll get one unique special card that fits your person, giving you one special ability. But otherwise, you are purchasing cards from a common deck of all your favorite characters throughout the Alien franchise movies, and you're working together to keep the xenomorphs at bay. The deck has a really interesting system where you put objectives strategically placed throughout the deck. So you are trying to find these objectives, meet their requirements when they pop up. What's really neat is the cards slide down and they're face down, so you don't know if the card is going to be that objective you're looking for, or if it's going to be a horribly strong xenomorph you're going to have to fight. So you've got to scan and find these cards, and you can't fight them until you've scanned them. So it's a lot of good working together. Okay, if you can scan this room, and then I think I can handle it on my turn. And there's nothing more terrifying than when you get a face hugger on yourself, and you need your friends to kill that face hugger before it gets back around to you and it infects you with a chest burster. The game does have player elimination. However, when a player dies, they get to come back as an alien and fight the other players. And so it's an interesting twist on player elimination. I wish more games kind of had that, where players could be eliminated, but then they can come back as the bad guy, as a different character, which is really neat. So that's my 96 Legendary Encounter, currently ranked on Board Game Geek as 111. Moving on to my 95th game, we've got a game here by Bruno Cathala, Five Tribes. Five Tribes is not a deck building game. It is a bag building game, or not a bag building game. It's a game where each space has different colored meeples on it, and what you do is you pick up all those meeples and then you spread them out, putting the certain colors where you want, trying to get different colors to be grouped together. The last color you put down in the final space, you can pick up all those pieces of that color, and then it triggers that color meeple's special ability, which is a really interesting mechanic. You're also buying genie cards that give you special abilities. You're trying to claim these tiles. If you get to clear a space of all the meeples, and you get to claim that space as your own and put down these different buildings and things like that, which will give you more points. Your colored camels claim the space for yourself, and it's a really neat game. A lot of chaos, a lot of fun. It's one of those games where you can't really think ahead too much on it, because everyone's turns are going to shift the board so much that by the time it gets back to you, the whole board is different, which is really neat. I kind of like games like that. There's a little bit of set collection in it too, as you're trying to collect different spices and tradable goods and stuff and get a big set of that. Fun game, Five Tribes. Currently ranked number 65 on Board Game Geek. My 94th game is currently ranked at 3,958 on Board Game Geek. But to me, I love it. It's a ton of fun, and that is Delve. Delve is a fun game of dungeon crawling. It's a tile-laying game in the same vein as Carcassonne, where you're going to have a hand of tiles and you're going to be building this dungeon together with the other players. However, you're trying to fight the other players for control of certain rooms. You'll be building blue rooms and gold rooms and hallway corridors. And as you lay down the tiles, you get to put one of your dungeon delvers in that tile, maybe a brute or a swordsman, a wizard. And when the room is completed, if you're the only one in the room, then you have to face a challenge that's drawn from the deck. And you resolve it by chucking these big chunky dice, which is so fun to roll. However, most times you're not going to be the only person in a completed room. Your competitors will be in there, and so each delver you have in that room will allot you a certain amount of combat dice, and then you'll be chucking these dice, trying to get the most swords and fight each other for all the loot that's in that treasure. Really fun game. Can't take it too seriously. A lot of silly things happen in the game. A lot of fun. It even has a little storytelling element to it, as a lot of the cards give you A, B options. Do you want to swing across the cavern, or do you want to climb your way down? And you'll make those choices, and that'll have different skill checks you got to make. So a lot of fun, good laugh around the table, and that is Delve. My 93rd favorite game to play is a game I haven't played too much. I've only actually ever played this game twice, but I know it's a great game. If it wasn't so expensive, I would probably have it in my own collection right now, and that is Ra, another Reiner Knizia game, currently ranked 175 on Board Game Geek. Ra is an auction game and a tile collecting game. You get to draw these tiles from a bag, you put them out on this board, and you'll have auctions for these different tiles. You're trying to get your different sets to match, to get all these points. Each tiles work with other tiles to get these points. It has an interesting betting mechanic where when you use your bet tokens, you don't get them back. So you have to kind of decide, okay, am I going to use my best one? You kind of know what other people's numbers are. You're able to take other people's numbers at certain phases in the game. Really, really fun game. Not a hard game, an easy game to teach. A lot of fun to play, and that is Ra by Reiner Knizia. My 92nd favorite game of all time to play is a game that I haven't played a lot in person. I've only played it about 3 times, but I've played the app a ton, and that is Terra Mystica. Terra Mystica is a game about terraforming this fantasy land. There's tons of great different fantasy races in there, each with their own special powers. And basically what you're trying to do is you have this beautifully colored map of different terrain, and you're trying to terraform the terrain into the type of terrain that your faction likes to live on. And then you'll be building different buildings to build your towns and your cities, and you're trying to get these settlements to grow. It's got an interesting mechanic of you want to be next to other people so that you can get certain bonuses, but yet you need your own space in order to be able to terraform. It's got different tracks that you can go up and down, a shipping track, a magic track. A lot of fun game, big chunky wooden pieces, a lot of wood in that game. A lot of fun, and that is Terra Mystica, currently ranked 16 on BoardGameGeek.com. The last game to talk about here in my first top 10 is my 91st favorite game to play. And it's another game that I haven't played that many times. I've only ever played it 2 times, but both times were extremely enjoyable. It's got a fun theme, and that is Grand Austria Hotel. That is currently ranked 88th on BoardGameGeek.com. Basically, you're running this little hotel. You're trying to get people to stay in different rooms. You're trying to get them together in different orders on the board to get different bonuses for that. You also run a little cafe in the lobby of the hotel where you're trying to serve them delicious coffees and cakes. It's a lot of fun. It's a dice game too, where you're moving around dice to get the different actions. And that, of course, is Grand Austria Hotel, my 91st favorite game. Hope you enjoyed this list. I'll be coming back on the next episode to hit the next 10 of my favorite 100 games to play.